All right, hello geometry. If you missed class today, I had some important announcements to announce what's going on this week, the week of the 11th. We will have a test on Friday. Be ready for that test. That test will be on Edulastic. So if you don't make it to class, at least take the test on Edulastic. I will shut that test down come 3 o'clock. So if you're not around to take it, you'll have to make arrangements. Also, there's a checking for understanding quiz. I'll have one today. Look for it. It's got today's date on it. Go to quizzes on Canvas and take that test. That it's not going to be graded. It's going to inform you of some skills that you should obtain by the test. If you don't have them, you know where to work at. It gives me an opportunity to give you some feedback, help you out, point you in the right direction. So please take this checking for understanding quiz. And then lastly, you should be finished with Mathia. The first two, you should be done with 2 modules on Thursday. So if you have finished Mathia and you're walking into the test, you should be in really, really good shape on passing that test. So those are main announcements. Some other things we worked on today were some congruency theorems. And I want to start with this one right here. This was an opening activity that we had in class. These are some postulates that we worked on last Friday. We learned 3 postulates: side, 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 angle, and angle, side, angle. And when we're looking at diagrams like this, we want to determine if these triangles are congruent. Always look at both triangles, but also determine some information that is not marked. So we have some markings here. Notice if you follow my cursor along, and hopefully you can see it. Let me get out of this and go back in, make sure that you're seeing this. Sometimes Zoom does not want. I hope that's showing up. I'll check later in the video. But notice they gave us some markings here. We have a single tick here. We have a single tick here. They're telling us that these sides are congruent. Notice how he has a single arc here and a single arc here. They're saying they're congruent. But there's also some information that we should know. When triangles share 2 sides, we know they're congruent as well. So we can go ahead and mark it. So I better use the marker. So we can say that these sides are congruent. So we have a side, we have an angle, and we have a side. Now it's very important that you check both triangles. Both triangles. Don't just look at one and say, okay, we have side, angle, side. So let's go to this bottom triangle right here. We have a side, we have an angle, and we have a side. So based off the side, angle, side congruency theorem, we can say that these 2 triangles are congruent. Let's look at number 2. Right off the bat, we have a double tick here. We got a double tick here. So we know these 2 sides are congruent. We got a triple tick here. We have a triple tick here. So we know these are congruent. Other information that they're giving us in this diagram that says that they should be congruent is the fact that we have 2 straight lines that intersect. These are vertical angles. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those and then evaluate. So I have a side, I have an angle, and I have a side. So I'm thinking I have side, angle, side. Let's check the other triangle. We have an angle, we have a side, and a side. So these 2 triangles are not congruent, even though they all have the same type of markings on it, but they're in a different order. So this is not enough information. This is actually the side-side angle postulate, which is not enough information. So just this one. The other one, we can say side, angle, side, but they're not both side, angle, side, so therefore we're not going to use it. Third one's pretty easy to spot. Notice that we got a single tick on this side here, a single tick on this side. We have a triple tick on this side. We're going to go with a triple tick here, and a double tick here, and a double tick here. This is the side, side, side. So yes, we can say these are congruent based off the side, side, side congruency theorem. And then lastly, don't forget, sit down, look at some stuff that you're supposed to know. Looking at this, I have 2 straight lines that intersect. I'm going to go ahead and mark them. Now notice how they use the single mark up here, arc. I'm going to do a double arc here. just so, because we don't know if they're the same. We're not going to assume that. And so I have an angle here, I have a side here, and I have an angle here. So I have an angle, side, angle. Let's see if we have the same thing here. We have an angle here. We have a side and an angle. So I'm saying, yeah, both triangles match up based off of the angle, side, angle postulate. Always check both triangles and they determine if they are both congruent based off of any postulates. Side, 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 or angle, side, angle. Those are the three that we learned on Friday. Now, the rest of the lesson, and I'll post this up on Nearpod tomorrow, was about analyzing diagrams. And noticing in this diagram, there's nothing written. There's nothing marked or anything, but they give us some information. Suppose the line segment AD bisects the angle A. So I'm going to come over here and say angle A. And this right here, if you're following my cursor, is AD. If AD bisects that angle, that means it cuts that angle into two equal parts. So I can say that this angle here is congruent to this angle. That's basic thing. The other piece of information they're giving us here is the line segment AD is perpendicular to the line segment BC. So here's the line segment AD. Here is the line segment BC. They're perpendicular. Why is perpendicular so important? Well, when we have perpendicular lines, we create 90-degree angles. So I can go ahead and say that this angle ADB is 90 degrees. This is also a linear pair. We have two adjacent angles sitting on a flat line. So if this is 90 degrees, I can assume that this is 90 degrees as well. I can deduce, not assume. It's a fact. Well, 90 degrees and 90 degrees are both congruent angles. Now, one more piece of information I need to mark. They're not telling me this in the information they're giving us, but notice how we have these two triangles that are sharing the same side. The side AD, I can go ahead and mark those. And now I can evaluate the triangle. I have an angle, I have a side, I have an angle. Let's go and look at the other triangle. I have an angle, a side, and an angle. So yes, these are congruent based off of the angle, side, angle postulate. So that's our lessons today. Take that information that you know about congruent triangles, mark your triangles up, take the implied information such as vertical angles, reflexive side, reflexive angles, and use those. Take some other information that you've learned all quarter long, like what does it mean to have perpendicular lines? What does it mean to bisect something? Does it mean if I say there's a midpoint on a segment? Why is that important? We're taking all of that information and we're using it to mark up our diagrams and determine whether or not these triangles are congruent. That's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email. I hope to see you in class next time.